1883, bundle of sticks. In San Angelo, we Shandong immigrants are just a handful. I'm Jin Zhen, the lone young woman among us, but I dress like the guys. 6 months ago, a U.S. hiring agent approached my father in China. The agent emphasized that only males could find work in America. I snuck onto the ship, disguising myself as a boy, determined to earn money for my parents back home. Along Oak Street, my 3 older brothers and I washed clothes under the sign, Jen Brothers Laundry. Beneath my rough exterior, a longing gnaws at me. Each evening, after a long day of washing clothes, I quietly slip away to a hidden spot on the prairie, seeking solace in my memories of John, my twin brother. John and I were inseparable back in Shandong, our bond as tight as a bundle of sticks. But 8 years ago, in a moment of foolish play, John fell from a tree, an accident I blame myself for. I had dared him to bounce on a dead limb. Since then, I've carried the weight of his death on my shoulders. Tonight, as I reach my secluded haven, I find my snares gone. Panic tightens in my chest. Someone has been here. I crouch low, scanning the darkness for any signs of movement. The wind rustles the dry grass, and an owl hoots in the distance. But I see no one. My mind races, imagining Alejo, the local insurance collector, lurking nearby. Alejo resents us Chinese immigrants and believes we're stealing jobs from honest Americans. Shaken of my fear, I began to gather twigs to remake the snares, determined to catch enough food for the next day. The memory of John's death is a constant companion, freezing me in place until a sharp gust of wind snaps me out of it. I focus on the task at hand, pleading to the great ultimate spirit to help me choose life in this foreign land. The next morning, Yong and I tackle our shop chores, boiling water, sorting clothes, and treating stains. I notice Yong's tasks seem easier today, and I silently thank him for his kindness. Just as we settle into the routine, Sally and Laura from the Nimitz Hotel arrive. Their faces are familiar yet distant. They are our first customers of the day, and I quickly check the ledger, unsure if they have an existing order. Good morning, ladies. I greet them, my English halting. Yong, uncomfortable with his own language skills, retreats to the back room. Good morning, Jane. They reply in unison, their voices friendly but formal. They hand me a tablet, showing their request for alterations. I nod enthusiastically, leading them to the back room where Yong is already working on their dress. For a moment, I forget that they see me as a man, and I relish the rare female companionship. I smile, catching their glances at the work in progress, feeling a brief but sharp pang of loneliness. If only they knew the truth. But the peace is shattered when Alejo storms in, his face twisted with anger. You people think you can just come here and take over, huh? He growls, his eyes burning with resentment. He demands his clothes by 4 and insists on our fire insurance payment, his voice dripping with venom. My heart races as I stammer an apology, trying to explain in my broken English. Alejo's rage is palpable. You can't even speak the language, and yet you're here stealing our jobs. He spits, his words cutting deep, when he hurls my abacus to the floor, I feel a sharp pain of fear. The tension in the room is suffocating as he storms out, leaving us shaken. Don't worry, Yong whispers as we return to work. But the unease lingers, a dark cloud hanging over the rest of the day. By afternoon, the laundry is done, but our spirits are low. We're short on the money for the insurance, and Alejo's threat looms large. The two oldest brothers stay at the shop, while Yong and I take the water wagon to the river. It's a routine task. As we fill the barrels, I see Alejo approaching on horseback. My heart skips a beat, and I instinctively hide among the bushes. From my hidden spot, I watch in horror as Alejo dismounts and attacks Yong, forcing his head under the water. Panic grips me, but I am frozen. Fear paralyzes me. I know that revealing myself would expose my identity. Alejo's tirade fills the air. You think you can come here and live like kings? Not on my land. His voice drips with bitterness as he hurls insults at Yong, who struggles to breathe. I bite my lip, guilt gnawing at me. John's death flashes before my eyes, another brother at risk. The fear of losing Yong overwhelms me, but I can't bring myself to move. Finally, Alejo releases Yong and rides off, leaving my brother gasping for air. I rush to his side, relief flooding through me as I realize he's alive. We finish gathering the water in silence, our bond strengthened by the shared trauma. That night, I couldn't sleep. The image of Alejo taking Yong plays over and over in my mind. I decide to move my snares, hoping to avoid further conflict. As I work, I think of John and the burden I've carried since his death. The weight of my guilt feels heavier than ever. In the early hours of the morning, I return to the shop and find Yong still awake, chopping wood in the back alley. I want to comfort him, but I don't know how. Instead, I join him in his work, the rhythmic sound of chopping wood, a temporary distraction from our troubles. As the sun rises, I hear a commotion in the alley. Alejo has returned, his eyes wild with anger. I rush to the money box, but before I can reach it, Alejo seizes Yong's axe and swings it down on my brother's hand. The scream that follows chills me to the bone. I grab the money and thrust it toward Alejo, my hand trembling. You people will pay, one way or another. Alejo sneers, snatching the money and bolting from the shop. The room is filled with Yong's labored breathing as I hurriedly sew his wound closed, my hands shaking with fear and rage. I vow that we'll never be late with the payment again. I continue sneaking out at night for the next 2 weeks. I catch animals for food and cook egg rolls to sell on the streets. I'm exhausted. My thoughts often drift to John, and I find myself reliving the day he died. Guilt is a constant companion, but I force myself to keep going. One evening, as the storm brews over St. Angela, I head to my usual hunting ground. The sky is dark and foreboding, the air thick with the scent of rain. I'm gathering my snares when I hear hooves. Alejo and 3 other men appear, the faces set in grim determination. Panic surges through me as they surround me, tying ropes to my arms and legs. Alejo pins me to the ground, securing a rope from my leg to his saddle horn. I struggle, but it's no use. Fear grips me as I realize I might not survive this night. The storm intensifies, and just as the men are about to stretch the ropes, a bolt of lightning strikes a nearby tree. The horses spook, and one of the men drops his rope, yelling that he's out. The others follow, leaving Alejo alone with me. I seize the opportunity, cutting the rope with my knife and scrambling to my feet. Alejo charges at me, but I stand my ground, the knife held firmly in my hand. As the rain pours down, Alejo's horse rears up, spooked by the thunder. I take my chance and flee into the night, my heart pumping with adrenaline. When I return home, drenched and shaken, I tell my brothers what happened. We prepare makeshift weapons, expecting Alejo to return, but he never does. Instead, the next morning, his riderless horse enters town, wild-eyed and soaked. Word spreads quickly. Alejo was struck by lightning during the storm. The news is met with relief, especially among those who had been paying him for insurance. We Chinese share in the sense of reprieve, grateful to have been spared another confrontation. That evening, as the storm clears, I sit down to write a letter to our parents. Dear Mother and Father, exciting news. Yong shared a story with me about stakes, emphasizing the strength found in unity. He recently received a letter. The letter brought tidings of 20 Chinese immigrants, both men and women. They're destined to arrive in San Angelo within a month. The prospect fills me with joy. Yong speculates that, like a bundle of stakes, our shared language and unity will make us strong in this city. As I seal the letter, I feel a sense of peace wash over me. For the first time since John's death, I allow myself to believe that maybe, just maybe, I can start anew.